Welcome and thank you for standing by. Currently, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Today's webinar is being recorded and the recording will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now I'd like to turn the webinar over to your host for today, Crystal Jimerson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on educator exits and graduate entries, workforce trends through the lens of the Longitudinal Employer-Household Dynamics data products. I'm Crystal Jimerson, a training specialist here at the U.S. Census Bureau. I want to thank you for joining us today for the Topics, Tools, and Data to Use webinar series. These webinars are a great opportunity for you to learn from our experts about how to access our data, tools, and resources. If you wish to follow along, take a moment now to open an additional browser. You can register for any of the webinars by visiting census.gov/academy. Before I introduce today's speaker, let's go over a few important housekeeping rules. As mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded for your convenience. It will be uploaded to our Census Academy site with all supplemental materials relating to the webinar within 30 business days. We welcome written questions during the webinar. Please submit your questions using the Q&A panel, which is at the bottom center or the right side of your WebEx screen. Please take a moment to locate that now. Once you've found the Q&A panel, make sure you choose all panelists from the drop-down menu. This will ensure we see your questions. Also, we ask that you do not include any personal or business identifiable information with your questions. We suggest keeping the chat panel open as we provide key links and other resources throughout the webinar. Keep in mind you won't be able to respond to the chat. That is for us to send out links and other resources related to the presentation. My colleagues will be monitoring the Q&A panel, and as time allows, we will answer your questions directly through the Q&A panel, or we will share your questions with the presenter to respond to during the webinar. If we do not get to all the questions with the response during the webinar, we will post the questions and responses with the webinar material on the census.gov/academy site within 30 business days. As you know, we are in a virtual environment and sometimes technical difficulties might occur. If you are having issues, try a different browser such as Chrome or consider logging out and coming back into the session. If you are having audio issues, try selecting the computer audio or calling into the webinar via phone. Now I would like to introduce our speaker, Erling Dow. Thanks again for being here today. Erling, you may begin.
Thank you so much, Crystal. I just want to say good afternoon to everyone, and I hope you're all doing well. I would like to express my gratitude for all of you joining us today and tuning in to learn more about the quarterly workforce indicators, or QWI Explorer, and also the post-secondary employment outcomes, or PSEO Explorer, looking at educators' exits and graduate entries. Before we get into the data tools, let's look at the program and the partnership. LEHD Data is a quarterly database of linking employer and employee data covering over 97% of private employment and most state and local and federal jobs in the United States. It is a voluntary federal-state partnership that was developed in the 1990s with just a few states. The map to the right shows our current partners in blue, including Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And even though some states are not currently active, we still have previous data from them, or we are trying to work to bring their status to active. Data availability is from 1990 through 2024. The start year varies by state. Under the partnership, states send their administrative records, which are combined with censuses and surveys to create new dynamic information on workers to produce public use data products, as well as microdata for research. The job data comes from the unemployment insurance wage records. Firm data comes from the quarterly census of employment wage data. Federal data comes from the Office of Personnel Management, and person data comes from censuses and surveys. Currently, LEHD has 3 main data sets and 2 experimental data sets. Each data set has an application for easy access. Each data set, along with each data tool, is unique in its own way. If you want to look at statistics on job mobility across state boundaries or industries, transitions between jobs by timing and firm or worker characteristics, or earning changes due to job changes, you would use our job-to-job or J2J flows data using the J2J Explorer and now in our LED extraction tool. The latest data in this tool is 2024 quarter one for most states. We also have 3-digit NAICS in the raw data. If you are curious about employment, hires, separations, turnovers, and earnings, you would look at the quarterly workforce indicators or QWI utilizing the QWI Explorer, the LED extraction tool, or Census API. For this data tool, the most current data is from 2024 quarter two. If you want to look at employment for detailed and customized geography, you will look at the LEHD Origin Destination Employment Statistics or LOADS data using the On the Map or On the Map for Emergency Management data tools and also in the LED extraction tool. Currently, we have LOADS data in both data tools for 2022 and recently we updated the On the Map for Emergency Management American Community Survey or ACS data to 2019 to 2023 5-year estimates. The 2023 loads data will be released near December. One of our experimental data sets, which we will talk about later, is the Post-Secondary Employment Outcomes, or PSEO, which reports earnings by institution, degree field, degree level, and graduation cohort for 1, 5, and 10 years after graduation, and is accessible through the PSEO Explorer and Census API. The current release now includes data on 935 institutions, which covers more than 33% of all college graduates in the U.S. in 2015. PSEO is a data product generated by linking graduate transcript records to LEHD data on graduates of participating post-secondary institutions in the U.S. Finally, we have another experimental data set, the Veteran Employment Outcomes, or VEO. Launched in 2020, VEO initially covered labor market outcomes for U.S. Army veterans. The update expands VEO coverage to also include data on Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guards of the veterans discharged between 2002 and 2021. These data show earnings and employment outcomes of more than 2.8 million formerly enlisted service members. Coverage includes labor market outcomes 1, 5, and 10 years after discharge by military occupation, rank, demographics, industry, and geography of employment. Today, we are going to use this LED in action example to look at educator exits and workforce trends. In this study, researchers asked the question, how do education labor markets vary across time, region, and educator characteristics using QWI for employees in the elementary and secondary schools from 2000 to 2024. What they found is that QWI can be used to construct valid education labor market measures and that turnovers vary more between counties than across time. Before we go any further, let's talk about the QWI Explorer. Back in the days, and sorry if you've heard me say this before, but we only had 8 indicators and tables for visualization, and the tool was called QWI Online. Now we have 32 indicators, maps, line charts, and bar charts, and extensive tables, all which are interactive. You can download, export, and upload links to company websites or social media. We have data all the way down to the 3- and 4-digit NAICS, and coming soon, 5- to 6-digit NAICS. And the timeliness of the data is like no other at Census. For most states, we have data as current as 2024 quarter 2. We also have data that includes state and local government employment as well as the private sector. Let's begin with national numbers and look at education employment count by state using the QWI Explorer. Here in this screenshot, you can see we are looking at the national geography level. The indicator is employment count. The quarter is 2024 quarter 1. The NAICS sector is educational service, and the x-axis is by states. By looking at the map, you can see those with the darker colors, such as California and New York, have employment counts that range from 342,765 to 399,484. This makes sense since they are the most populated states. If you look below at the table, by double-clicking the chevron near the text All, we can list the numbers in ascending or descending order. And we see that Wyoming has the least number of educators, which again makes sense since it's the least populated, followed by North and South Dakota, and so on. Part of the LED in Action study was to look at the turnovers by region. By changing the indicator to turnovers, we can see on this map that Wyoming has the most turnover in 2024 quarter one, showing 1.64% versus 1.52% from Vermont. These links on the bottom of the screens will take you to the exact analysis in QWI Explore. The study also found there was a high turnover for educators without college degrees. Looking at this screenshot from 1993 through 2023, the turnovers for those without bachelor's degrees or advanced degrees were above 8%. The study also looked at turnovers in the education sector by race. In 1993, white alone had at least the least amount of turnover, followed by Asian alone. But in 2009, that changed and the roles were reversed. In 1993, two or more race groups led the turnovers, but as of 2023, Black or African American alone leads in turnovers at 12.6%. You have to ask yourself, why are there so many turnovers? The first place I would look is salary. So according to this analysis, we can see that educators in Puerto Rico earn the least amount of a monthly salary at $2,391, followed by South Dakota and Montana. If you look at the map, you can see that DC earns between $6,032 to $6,638 a month. The study paid particular attention to the employees in elementary and secondary schools. When using the QWI Explorer, you can only look at the 3 to 4 digit NAICS by state geography level or lower. So here we can look at earnings for elementary and secondary schools from DC and Wyoming and also compare it to all NAICS. In comparison of the two geographies, there is a bigger earnings gap when comparing educators in DC. And then this is where it gets interesting. If we change the firm ownership to all ownership, then we can see average earnings that are also public school salaries. Sometimes schools in rural areas may offer signing bonuses, or maybe the higher salary could be to teachers with advanced degrees. It's also interesting to know that Jackson Hole is in Teton County, where the household median income is $112,681 to $113,726. Wyoming also does not have state income tax, so wealthy individuals flock here for privacy and outdoor lifestyles, like Harrison Ford, Sandra Bullock, Matthew McConaughey, Kanye West, Tiger Woods, and so much more. So now let's start a live demo and go through all of those screenshots. So the best way to get to us is if you type in lehd.ces.census.gov. You can also Google QWI Explorer and we'll come up. But here I am on the home page. And on the home page, if you look to the left side, all of the applications are listed, or you can click on the applications tab and then that'll show you all of our different applications with a list and a description of all of them. But I'm just going to click on the QWI Explorer, which is the second to the last bullet. And once I do that, it comes up Wyoming, but we're going to go ahead and change that to the United States. We're going to keep it at employment count, and then we're going to change the industry to 61, which is educational services. I also want to point out that we have, if you click on Get Data, that shows you that you can download the table as an Excel chart or zip or raw data or shape files. You can also download the charts and maps. You can share it, as I mentioned earlier, to social media or just a unique URL. And then you can get a report by just downloading the PDF. So again, I changed this to educational services. I'll come over here and then I will change the x-axis to states. And then it'll give me a conflict, which pretty much just tells me it's going to change it from line chart to maps. And that's okay. And once I do that, I'm going to change the group to no group. And so here on the left, you can see the map, identical to the screenshot. But then here we can see a list of the states, and it's currently alphabetical. But if I double click, it'll show me that California is tops with the most employment, which was 373,790, followed by New York. And then if I double click again, we can see again Wyoming and North Dakota and South Dakota are the least employments for that. Okay, now let's look at the turnovers. So before I go and do that, I wanted to show you that we have an advanced setting. So currently I have an advanced setting set up, but normally if you go in there and it's not the advanced, it comes from this. So let me just unclick this just to show you what it looks like. Oh, shoot. And make sure you click on save. But then it just bounces all the way back. But if I click on this, you can see that the indicators are limited to just these indicators. So I'll click it back on, click on save. And then we're going to change this to turnovers. And then again, I have to put in, because I went ahead and changed it. So I'm going to put in 61. And you can always do a search with words or with numbers, and it'll pull it up. And then this, looking at the line chart, but we're going to change this again to no group and this to states. So again, it's in alphabetical order, and you can see by looking at the map that Wyoming is the one with the more turnovers. But if I just double click on this, it's actually Puerto Rico. So this is interactive with this. But Wyoming is ranked second. And I did want to mention that before, when I was doing the PowerPoint, the data was 2024 quarter one, and now it's 2024 quarter two. So I might be bouncing between the two instead. So anyway, here's the turnovers. And then let's go ahead and look at the earnings. So again, I'll just go through the indicators and I'll scroll down to Earn S, average monthly earnings. And then here we can see the list. And this is, again, 2024 quarter two. That's why my number is different from my PowerPoint. I'll click on OK because I want to use the 2024 quarter one. But everybody, I think some of the links are being put in so you guys can change it to whatever you want. But here is the District of Columbia being the top in 2024 quarter one of earnings. So these educators earn $6,638 a month, while those in Puerto Rico earn $2,391 a month. And then Wyoming, let's see, where was Wyoming? Oh, here it is. So Wyoming earns $3,601. Okay, so then if we want to look at the 3 to 4 digit NAICS, like the study, I'm going to change this to DC just for starters. And we are going to look at the earnings, and then I'm going to change this to NAICS 4 digit. And instead of wanting to look through all of that, I'm going to click on this blue underline text, and then I'm going to click on check none. And then I can scroll down to where it's 61, or I can even type in 61 and it'll jump down to where 61 is. So I'll click on OK. And now we're looking at elementary and secondary schools and what their earnings are. So their earnings in the District of Columbia is $6,428. But when I change that to Wyoming, and I'm going to have to change the all private ownership to all ownership. And then I'm going to, again, take out all of these and then just type in 61 and then pull up elementary. And then I'll click on OK. And now we can see all of the different counties within Wyoming. And if I double click, we can see that Teton, Wyoming, like we discussed earlier, that's the county that has Jackson Hole. And then it just kind of gives you a list. But these earnings are 6,320. So that's interesting, I think. But if you scroll down, this Crook County becomes 2,961. So I would suggest that you play around with these filters, and you can see a lot of other different, very interesting things. But I'm not allowed to, so I'm not going to show you that stuff. So go look at that. So I would click on all ownership and then click on private. Alrighty. All right, now going back to the post-secondary employment outcomes. As I said earlier, the current release includes data on 935 institutions, and we are still building more coverage for the universities. As you can see, anything in yellow is what's pending right now. We're just still uploading all of that data into the system. You can see by the map, the darker the blue, the more graduate coverage we have for the state. And then, like I said earlier, you can see the yellow pending data. I've added a link here so that you can go into the website to see the percentage of coverage by state. In this screenshot, we are looking at the University of Wyoming and graduates who have earned their bachelor's degree in education. We are also looking at those in the 50th percentile, meaning this is the median value and earnings of the typical graduate, while 25 is the lower earning graduates and 75 is the higher earning graduates. We've also chosen education for the degree program. After 1 year after graduation, graduates earn $47,152. After 5 years, it's $56,367. And after 10 years, this it's 61,623. So this is for graduates from the University of Wyoming. And then here we can look at the flows. We can see that 84% go into educational services, and then 7% go into healthcare and social services, and then so on. Then after 5 years, 72% stay in Wyoming and 15% stay in the Mountain Balance area, such as Montana, South Dakota, to name a few. This is the one industry that retains the most graduates to stay in Wyoming. So let's go live again. Okay. So again, since I have a tab here, I'm going to click on the LEHD homepage, and then I'll click on PSEO Explore. And it automatically comes to Colorado because that's by alphabet. So we're going to change Colorado to Wyoming. And once we do that, under institution, we're going to go and look at University of Wyoming. So it is currently, let me try to make this smaller so we can see a better. So currently we have business management and social science, but I'm going to unclick them, or you can click on clear selected down in the lower left-hand corner, and I'll put in education. So as I mentioned earlier through the screenshot, these are the 1, 5, and 10-year earnings of those who graduated with an education degree. And that's a bachelor's degree. But you can also look at those that would earn a certificate. Let's go back. And then let's look at the master's for education. So they earn a little bit higher than those with bachelor's. And then again, if you decide to look at the doctoral research scholarship, a lot higher, and those that are professional and practice. So if you're going to be an educator, it's probably best to have your doctoral degree to earn more. So I'll go back to bachelor's. The other thing is you can come down to the lower side. So here you can change it up. We can look at the 25% and the 75%, but we're keeping it for now at the 50. But these are things that you can play with, look at, etc. So then I like this little button. So where it says detailed on the left-hand side, you can click on detailed, and then now we can see different programs that are coming out of the educational degree. So we have teacher education and professional development, which has 48,000 plus 57,000 in 5 years and 65,000 in 10 years. And then you can see the teacher education and professional development, which has 46,000 after 1 year, 55,000 plus after 5 years, and 60,000 plus after 10 years. So teacher education and professional development with a specific subject area is probably the better route if you're looking at earnings. The other thing is if I click on flows, now it takes me back to the education and it tells me the numbers of graduates, but I'm going to change that to the shares because shares are easier to look at. So here we can see the education 100%, but they all go, about 84% of them go into, what did I do here? 84% go into educational services, followed by healthcare social assistance at 7%, public administration at 3%, retail trade at 2%, and so on. The other thing that I mentioned was if I click on Geo, then it tells me how many of these students stay in Wyoming. So 72% stay in Wyoming after 5 years. But if we click on 1 year, it's 70%. And if we click on 10 years, it's 70%. So 5 years seems to be the better number here. But after 72%, 15% go to mountain balance, and then some go to the west, north, central, west, south, central. Very little go to the Pacific, and so on. And I know I said earlier that this was the highest retention for the degrees. So if I unclick that and click on healthcare, you can see it's only 43%. Click again, engineering, 33% stay in Wyoming. Homeland Security, we have 58. Psychology, 56. Agriculture is 49, but still nobody is as high as 72%. And I know because I looked at all of them. So anyway. And then I do want to mention that you can download the data. There is a tutorial, and if you need help, you can just click on the help. Okay. So with that, in summary, on this slide, we have links to the help and documentation. On the right, we have links to our workshop and webinar tabs, and a link to the LED in action and how the data users are using our data products, like we use the LED in action for today. And then here is my contact information. And with that, I hand it to Amy for your questions.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for that presentation. I always learn a little bit more every time I watch one of your presentations. Hopefully everyone in attendance can say the same. There are a couple of questions in the chat. Let's see. The first one, could you please say more about how the firm ownership field is defined, and does all private ownership include public school teachers?
So yes, all ownership does include state and local and federal. So it would include the public school teachers. And then the private is just that. It's just private. It's the private sector.
All right, thank you. You mentioned that some data is available up until Q2 2024. Do you have any idea when more recent data will be available?
Well, we do have a schedule, so let me go ahead and share that with you. So if you're looking at the QWI Explorer under data, we can scroll down to QWI, and then it has, is this where the, not this one, sorry. I would hate to close out of here, so sorry. Okay, let's see, it might be under the QWI Explorer. There is a calendar. Oh, here we go, release schedule. So it kind of just gives you information. So that it kind of gives you last information. So 9/27, oh, 9/27, that hasn't happened yet. So that will be 9/18 and 9/27. Oh no, that's 2024. So sorry. There is a calendar somewhere. I'm so sorry. I can find that, and then if you email me, I will send it to you. So if you would do that, that would be great. So sorry.
Excellent, thank you. Can you talk about the difference between separations and turnovers in QWI?
So there is, again, we have if you go to our data tab, and then you look under the QWI, we have the QWI 101, and that explains how, further about the separation and turnovers. So let's see. So here it is, separation and turnovers. It gives you a little bit more detail, but this is where you would find a complete answer rather than me trying to answer that for you.
Excellent. Thank you. Can you talk about how the universities that are included in PSEO are selected, since they're not all there for every state?
So we go out there and everybody wants their data in this data tool. So we just try to create, we do memorandums and contracts to see who can be in it, and then we just work through it. I mean, there are a lot of people, there's a list probably of people that want to, or universities that want to be a part of it, and states that want to be a part of it. So Andrew Foote, he's our lead PSEO researcher, so he's the one that makes all the connections with the universities.
Okay, and there's a follow-up question on that, actually. Is there a reason why all states would not be included?
So that is up to the states. So some states just have fallen out. So we are always trying to appeal to them and make sure that they see that how we can make the data accessible for them and easy access. So we are always working to bring our states current. So.
Okay. There's a follow-up question to the private versus all ownership. Are the only two options all private ownership and then all ownership that includes private and public? Will there be an option, or is there an option somewhere else to get just public?
So if you do a little math, you can get all public. So if you take the all ownership and the private ownership and you subtract it, you can get that total. Whether we do that on the fly on one of the data tools is still yet to come. So, but I will put in your wish. That sounds like a great idea. So I'll ask.
And then it looks like there's one more. For QWI data, it looks like there's state, there's county available. Will it be available at smaller geographies like school districts, or even larger, like just regions like Northeast? Or is there another place to find that data if it's not here?
So the smallest data that we have in the QWI is unfortunately counties and WIAs. But if you go into our on the map, so like I know you have to go here to get something and then you have to go here to get another thing, but our on the map goes all the way down to census tracts and census blocks.
Excellent, thank you. And can you just explain real quick what a WIA is, since you mentioned that?
So it's Workforce Information Advisory, I believe. I guess once a long time ago, and I don't know the full answer to this, but once a long time ago, people would count on the labor market information offices were working through the WIAs versus the geography.
Thank you. Okay, there are no further questions, but let's just give it a second to see if anybody's in the middle of typing something or has something in mind that I didn't ask. Okay, it doesn't look like there's anything more in the Q&A. So I will send it back to Crystal.
Thank you, Earlene, for always providing reliable and useful information on the LEHD products and the demos. Um, Earlene did provide her contact information, but on this slide, if you do need more information or assistance for the products that we offer, we do have an excellent team of data dissemination specialists across the region who are available. You can request a training by visiting the Census Academy page at census.gov/academy. There you will find resources such as our recorded webinars and data gems. Before we conclude, I'd like to thank everyone who played a role in today's webinar. We thank you, our audience, for spending your time with us this afternoon. We are interested in hearing from you on how we are doing, so please take a moment to fill out the evaluation that will appear when you exit the webinar. That brings us to a close. We thank you again for joining us today and hope you have a great afternoon.
This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.